Hi everyone, my name is Aniza Nisahak. I am from the Women for Equality Association. Today, we would like to welcome you to a special edition of our Purple Room live talk show, the Empowering Women series. The goal of this talk show is to provide women in our community a platform to discuss issues that many of us face and hear from professionals in the field who can offer their insights and guidance on the best way to handle them. We are the change makers of this generation. So it is very important for us to keep ourselves up to date with current developments and be informed on issues. And so the episodes of this series will feature experts from various fields such as finance, health, relationships, and everything in between. We have actually conducted the one for finance 2 days ago. We believe that addressing every aspect of our society will provide an all-encompassing perspective on the issues facing women today. So, we feature special guests who share their experiences and insights. These guests range from influencers to everyday women who have overcome challenges and achieved success in their own lives. So the Purple Room Talks, the Empowering Women series, serves an outlet for both our guests and audience to come together to share their experiences, challenges, and successes. By listening to these experts' advice and insights, we hope to help women navigate the complex issues that we all face in our personal and professional lives. So our talk show will be broadcasted on our social media platforms, and I hope that some of you are on FB Live by now, and will be available to be rewatched on our YouTube channel. So women from all over the world can tune in and participate in this discussion. For today's talk, I would like to welcome Miss Elizabeth Gimbad. Please, Elizabeth, are you in there? Please join us. So Elizabeth Gimbad is from the Malaysian Agroecology Society. She's my very good friend and in fact colleague. Please, Elizabeth, I think I'll let you introduce yourself and the topic that you would like to expand on today, your organization and the research that you have so much conducted thus far in agriculture.
Okay, great. Okay, hi, and thanks, Anizan, so much. And I'm glad to see that the stream has stopped lagging. I had a brief moment of panic there for a minute. Okay, hi and good evening, everyone. I'm very glad to see everyone tuning in on Friday night. And choosing to be entertained by us at the WEA. It's very encouraging. Okay, so my name is Elizabeth Gimbad, and I am an ex-co member of SRIMAS. The acronym stands for the Malaysian Agroecology Society for Sustainable Resource Intensification. All right, and what they do is that they work with farming communities across Malaysia, help them and advocating for them to adopt agroecology for the purposes of ensuring food security, better community and farmer health, and also community resilience. Some of our partners include the Community Seed Reserve Initiative, known as IRBK, and which is the Natural Farming Association Malaysia. Okay, and we have also recently collaborated with WEA and NFARM on the Sabah project, where we worked with women teaching them how to grow rice without using chemicals and to help them revitalize agriculture in their areas. All right. Okay, and then as for me, my personal background is that I'm trained in both social anthropology and development studies, mainly in Australia. And what my research mostly focuses on is basically agriculture, indigenous ethnic identities in Sabah, Malaysia. My special focus is actually on rice and how its consumption, how rural development projects has impacted the planting of heirloom rice and the conversations around heirloom rice in Sabah. Yeah. And I'm also actually from the Kadazan Dusun community lah. I'm part Chinese, part Kadazan Dusun. Yeah.
Would you like to share the book that we actually produced together, Elizabeth? I'm so excited to actually share this.
I forgot that. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this was a labor
Can
of
you see?
love. Anizan, and Ani, who's also a member. Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I don't know whether other people can see it. Yeah. So this is the book that we
Yes,
produced
yes.
with WEA. Yeah, and it features the wonderful women who joined the WEA project, the women who we have worked with throughout the years at Streamers, and also not just in Malaysia but also overseas, like in Indonesia and Philippines. And yeah, I mean, it's great lah, wonderful lah. Yeah, to finally actually see this
Yeah,
book out and in
yes.
print and in our hands. Yeah, and if you're interested, I mean, you can just leave a comment and let Anizan and I know lah, and then we can just put in the order with Shimas. Yeah.
Could you expand a little bit on the IRBK work, perhaps? I
Yeah.
think that's
Okay.
very
So
interesting.
yeah, actually, you should be talking about it. You just came back from a seminar with them. Yeah. Okay. So the IRBK that in Malay is a Initiative Reserve Bernay Community, correct, Anizan? Yeah. In English, it's
Yes.
basically Community Seed Reserve Initiative, right? And what they're doing is that they're creating the first community seed library in Malaysia, right? Where people can give donate seeds or rather whole seeds, um, submit what they have on the database to let people around them and the rest of Malaysia know that okay,
So
these are the things that we have.
how do you find it
It's
important for your Sabah community in that respect?
in the Sabah community, I mean, the thing is that something that I found really interesting lah is that because in Sabah we've always had this tradition of seed sharing, right? There's not so much protectionism about it. So where someone might visit a different district and then say that, hey, I really like the rice that we are eating here, or like, hey, you guys have jagung pulut, glutinous corn that I have not seen in my area for a long time. Can I have a couple of seeds? And people always say that yes, sure, why not? And they will give that seed and say eat it, spread it around, because they know that the continuity of these types of food, certain types of plants, is dependent on people sharing them and consuming them, right? So IRBK is basically sort of like stems from that understanding as well, where if you want certain types of foods to survive, and foods is also linked to not just types of agriculture, but also our traditions, our cultures.
Hmm.
If you want all of those to survive, we have to be able to share it and share it freely. And part of our IRBK was really in response to the changes to the new Seed Act, I believe, that the government is trying to push through now, where they will basically restrict seed buying and selling to a certain few producers lah. Yeah, and this will really, really impact like smallholders or hobby gardeners lah, right? Because
So,
if they share their seeds, they're liable to legal action.
so would you like to introduce to us how you started your journey leading to your work with the indigenous community?
Well, I mean, so when I remember you gave me this question to prepare, right? I was a bit like, oh, this feels a bit personal. I really have to start thinking deep
Yeah,
about
more
myself.
personal is better, I think. It makes you even more passionate in your work, right?
Really, I feel like all researchers are like basically introverts. We don't like to talk about ourselves. uh, yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. As I said, this one's a bit of a personal journey. My personal background is that my dad is mostly a Kadazan Dusun from Sabah. My mom is Chinese from KL. And because of my dad's work, we were always moving back and forth between KL and Sabah, right, every few years. And so I was always constantly moving between two cultures, and also can I say like sort of like two classes where you sort of like, you are in KL and you are in some place where like so highly developed, so urbanized, right? Nothing but skyrise everywhere. Okay, and then when I'm back in Sabah, it's a case of like, the sea is right at my doorstep. Okay, I bangun pagi, I look outside, and immediately it's Mount Kinabalu, right? And at the same time, it's like, you're in the midst of all this beauty. And when I balik kampung to like, visit people, family or family friends, and then you're also confronted with all these scenes of poverty, lah, right? And I've always struggled like all my life to try and figure out like, how is it that like, we are all Kononia, one country? Is it yet like, the separation between the rich and poor is so big, right? Because I think like the current statistics show that in Sabah it's like 8 out of 10 people, 7 out of 10 people are P40, right? They live like, they live below the poverty line. Okay, and then so when I went on to university, like, that's what I wanted to study lah. I took up development studies because I wanted to figure out like, okay, how do I go back and help these people? How do I go back and help my community lah? Essentially, it's my community. This is part of where I come from. This is partly who I am. Okay, and then after I graduated, I went back to work with the Sabah state government. And for those of you watching, if you have ever worked in development, you know that it's a soul-crushing career because it's so depressing. Where like, you work so hard at a project, 90% of time it fails. At the same time, when I went back, right, it was also partly a selfish reason. I needed to figure out what really did it mean to be Karazan Dusun. So while I was doing my work in development, I also was like, trying to investigate lah. Like, how do we describe what does it mean to be Karazan Dusun? Because each time I was back in KL or somewhere in Semenanjung, I was usually like the only Sabahan people have met or the only native lah. And usually I'll get a lot of questions lah about Sabah, like, how Sabah's like, or like, oh, you say that you're Karazan Dusun. What does it mean to be Karazan Dusun? And I really struggled with the answer. Because in Sabah, you know what it means to be Karazan Dusun. Me lah, saya lah. I mean, like, because you grew up within that community, right? But when you have to explain yourself to others, it's very difficult. And it was very hard to have that reference point because there's so little research on indigenous communities in Malaysia. I mean, like, I'm talking about it from a Karazan Dusun standpoint, but I'm pretty sure that any other orang asli or orang asal in Malaysia has had this struggle as well. They have experienced this, right? Then after I finished that, so I went back to Australia, and then I eventually ended up doing a master's in research. I decided, okay, development studies, a bit a bit soul sucking, and I decided, okay, I really want to go back into this culture thing and this identity thing. It's important, and so I went to do my MRes lah, anthropology, and that's when I balik kampung again, and that's when I really started going into agriculture, because I knew that from my previous work, agriculture was very important, and that it meant something to Karazan Dusun community, and it also had to do with what my late grandfather used to say lah, my paternal side, because you say that, orang Dusun ni, you know what we are good at, kita pandai tanam padi. That's why we have the word Dusun. That's why the British call us Dusun. And when I went back to do my fieldwork, I mean, that's what people were telling me as well. That's why we've got Dusun. Semua yang kita cucuk pandai hidup. It sounds a bit vulgar lah, I apologize. Yeah, but
Green
basically that's what they're
fingers.
saying. Yeah, I mean, like, that's what they're saying lah. Yeah, and that's how I ended up working within agriculture lah. Very long-winded story, but that's basically it.
Very nice, very nice. So you have green fingers?
Can't really tell lah. I mean, like, I mean, pandai tanam lah, but I will forget to
Pandai tanam.
water, and then it dies.
Same here. So, what is the relationship between women and farming to you?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, when I was preparing for this, and then I was thinking, oh no, like, from anthropology, right, we end up jumping back into history lah. Okay, so everyone make your coffee. It'll be a 10-minute talk. Okay, so at what we call anthropologists, we would like to look back at what we call like prehistory. Okay, and what scholars have guessed is that it's very likely that women were the very first farmers, right? There's this very long-standing relationship between women and farming, and I mean, and part of that still persists until today. Where, like, when you look at myths about rice, right? There's usually like some sort of reference to goddess or
So we're back, everyone. Hi again, Elizabeth. Sorry for the
I.
bad connection, people who are viewing today, but we really should continue with this very exciting conversation with Elizabeth, and I'm sure everybody wants to know. She was about to show us something about indigenous culture, how it looks like in Sabah. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I've shared the screen. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm showing you is like, this what I'm trying to do lah, okay, this set of pictures is to basically like compare and to show the audience how indigenous agriculture, at least in Sabah at least, looks like. Okay, so in this slide actually, what you're looking at here, the woman in blue who's bending over is actually one of our Sri Mas members in Sabah. She's like a huge mainstay. Margaret, kalau kamu tengok ni, kamu hero kita tau. Okay, and
Yeah,
what she's doing is
Margaret.
that she's teaching two people from a local. Yeah, hi Margaret. Yeah, she's actually teaching these two guys here of a local NGO about, like, how to grow rice using the SRI method lah, which is an organic rice farming method, and this is what one of the things that Srima specializes in and that we offer training in. Okay, so when I mention so if you mention the term rice field, right, this is what you usually think lah, like, petak macam gini, very orderly, square. And then, but what actually this field actually actually something like this. Okay, this is a field that has just been cleared. Okay, and and it yeah, and as I said, look, it looks like this. It basically follows the contours of the land. Okay, this place is actually full of stones and everything. And the reason why it's done this way, it may look messy, but there is logic behind it. It is basically to maximize land space, okay, and to minimize the amount of labor use. Because if we do something like Margaret's one, like this one, right, she and her husband spent, like, I think, a month or a few weeks, because originally her field looked something like this. It took them quite a while to redo the fields, right? They said, but whereas if, let's say, you don't have a lot of labor or a lot of things, the best that you can and maximize the land is this way. Okay, hang on. Okay, then this one, what we're looking at here now is the empangan air lah. Sorry, I only can think of Malay terms at the moment. The one for like menyalurkan for irrigation. Yes, thank you. For rice irrigation thing. Okay, so this one is in the lower lands of Kota Belud. What I showed just now, Margaret's Fields, those are in the highlands towards Mount Kinabalu area. This is lowlands. Okay, and because of that, they can have these larger irrigation canals. Right, what you can see is actually some rice plants left over from sowing. This one here is banana tree. Over here got pokok petai, got a few fruit trees here, and if you go in all the way here, where there's a strip of marshy land, this is where we will go after planting rice to go and look for pakis, edible ferns, right? And this is also part of indigenous farming culture, where, like, where you grow, you try to maximize the land as much as you can. Okay, so this is how an empangan air, when you imagine, tell you irrigation, right, for rice, this is what usually people will imagine, or what you have seen in Semenanjung over in Peninsular Malaysia. Okay, and then the reality is that when you go into the highlands, you are going to see something like this. All right, something that looks more like rain. Okay, and nice, is it? But it's still okay. And again, here you have, like, the irregularly shaped. Okay, and it really, like, helps to maximize land space lah. Because let's say if you do it like one square, then these little triangular pockets, you won't be able to utilize them for farming. Okay, all right. So this is another picture. This one, I know that if I show it to you like this, you're going to have no idea what you're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to try and set the scene for you. This is where I was standing on a road overlooking the village. It's Margaret's village, number 1, over in Kota Belud, Sabah. Okay, and what we are okay, and then so I'm on a high ridge looking down into the village, which is built in a valley. Okay, and all around me are actually edible vegetables and plants. Okay, this thing you see here, and this one you're familiar with it, this is ubi. But this tree here, 1, 2, and 3 down here is, over here was a fruit tree. I can't remember whether it was chiku or manga, and I have to look for my notes. And then down here is it's actually a vegetable farm that's like, and then here are the rice fields. Okay, and then here is the river. Okay, this river runs right through the village. Source of water as a source of for the fields, for people to swimming, recreation. Also, this place is known for tourism. Okay, and then up here you can't see it, but there's a place for you to cross the river, because that place you see here are rice fields. Okay, and then here, sticker you see here, this pathway. There's a pathway here, and along here are actually fruit trees. It's a mixture of getah and fruit trees as well. Okay, so that's basically how it looks like.
So there's
now I'm
always a
going to try and take
mixture,
you for a
is
walk
it?
through the village. Yes, there's a mixture, and there's actually a logic to how they plant it. Okay, right. So the places where people stay, the houses are on one side of the river. Okay, and the fields, the place where they grow things, grow food, and also sometimes they will also rear things like chickens or pigs, right, are all on the other side of the river. So there's this clear separation, lah. Okay, and then now, so if you walk through, the rice fields across here, okay, here is the drain, here is what, then you have all these, then all the path, they will start planting other things. So this one here, okay, and then when you go up close, the next screen is trying to load. Okay, then when you reach, this is in Sabah we use the term sulap. It's actually a farming hut where people would store their farming materials, or sit there for a nap, right, when the sun gets too hot. Then all around these resting places, that's when they will start planting other things like fruit trees again. So manga, over here you've got banana, over here you've got serai, and actually have this really, really nice lime tree. And then at the back here is actually a fishing pond.
Elizabeth, that's all very interesting.
Yep.
But why is agriculture still very important to these indigenous women in Sabah?
Yeah, I mean, there's a question you hear, hardship, why do it? So like I mentioned just now, one of the main reasons is it still comes down to food security and subsistence. And then also it has to do with that securing of property, land rights for their families, right? Okay, so women actually, and families, men and women in the villages, they all actually have worked in cities before, or in towns. They have all gone down to KK, gone down to Brunei, gone down to Johor, whatever, to work in these urban areas. And then after a while, they get married, they have children. It's way too expensive. And then they decide, look, we're just going to balik kampung. Cost of living in the city is too expensive. Then they go back. And then that's when they say, we will return to farming. And and because it's economic reasons. And then also, like I said before, when you plant the land, right, you show that it's under cultivation, it secures the property rights for the next generation, and whether your children decide to stay in the village or leave. Yeah.
Security,
and then another reason also is even though you're poor, and another thing, and this is what Sri Masters also, right, I think in our work, is that it's about farmers' health and children's health, because they are very concerned about the usage of chemicals and pesticides, right? Because these people live close to the ground, they're in contact with chemicals all throughout their lives, and they can see the impact on the land, on people's individual health, right? Because they can see like certain places where chemical usage is very higher, cancer, right? Then people get cancer, children get eczema, children get asthma, right? And then they can also see that there's a problem with some of the vegetables. They're like, it smells bad, anjing pun tak mau makan. That's a term that they always use. The dogs don't even want to eat it, right? So I want to give my children the best life, and part of this includes growing the best food for them.
So it's for economic and security, and perhaps you would like to share what are the current issues these women face in present time, these indigenous farming communities.
My answer is always the same. I mean, it's like, it's always excess, excess, excess. And by which I mean, like, they need, as I said, the women are always able to grow, usually most times, able to grow enough for their families. And then what they need actually is cash so that they can stay at going to school, right? Save up for better education. And or be able to spend on transport lah, things like that. And what do they need? And what are barriers holding them back from that? It's really like access to roads, access to electricity, access to larger markets. Okay, because I see it again and again. Villages where women and men with access to good roads and regular transportation are able to sell more frequently, greater volumes to markets, right? Good roads also means that they can send your children to school because the children have a safe way to go to school, go back and forth. And then also if they have electricity, right, then this allows them to turn their agricultural produce into other higher value products. Okay, so like Margaret just now I mentioned, what does she sell? Rice. She also now develops roasted rice flour, cocoa nibs, right? And part of that is enabled because she has access to electricity and a really big okay, small things like this. And then in other villages like nearby, I think like 2 villages away from Tambatuan, they have managed to develop pineapple jam into a product. Other places it will be dried ginger and some vegetables.
You mean to say that some of these villages do not have electricity and road access, and therefore the women are pretty much disadvantaged?
Yeah. I mean, like yes, pretty much. So like the pictures that I showed you just now, those are the fortunate villages because they have got roads, electricity. But actually, in places where very, really, really rural areas of Sabah, right? Where I'm thinking like Nabawan or Paitan and everything. I mean, it's like road, right? The so-called road is basically a logging road, okay, where you need a 4-wheel drive to access. And let's be real lah, when your monthly income is below 1,000, are you going to be able to afford that 4-wheel drive? No, you cannot. And the thing is that 4-wheel drive road, that logging road will only go so far, so close, and then you stop there, and then you walk in 3 hours, to the village. Or sometimes you have to go in via boat. You see, yeah, and this life is very hard. And if you can't vote, then jangan cakap lah electricity. You don't have electricity. Yeah. I think some of you might remember during MCO, there was that case of that girl from, I forgot which part of Sabah she was from, what's her name. But anyway, she talked about having literally night pokok lah, take her exam. And I know that there were some people saying, no lah, cannot be lah. It cannot be this rural lah. Not in this day and age. But it's true. It is absolutely true. That's how it is. And I know because I've been there.
So we should all go to Sabah and really see
in order to send an
the
SMS,
situation.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
We should all go to Sabah.
to send an SMS, I have to night book it, go to the highest house, find the tallest tree, your phone
Climb a
up
tree.
rope, and you throw it over the tree. Yeah, you throw it over the tree. The tree branch,
wow.
You just hang it there lah, and then you wait the tea. Okay, SMS dah hantar.
Sudah sampai. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how we had to call for an emergency service helicopter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, It's really that rural.
Anybody took a video of that, that would be very interesting. And yeah, it's sad, sad. That in this day and time you're still, in that situation. So, if you have the opportunity to, share the skills that these communities have, what will you be sharing if we, let's say, have a workshop on skills, which WEA and Srimas are actually thinking of having a series of in the near future? What would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember we've been talking about this, right? So I think the easiest way to go into it would actually, okay, so viewers, audience, you guys have a choice now. Please vote. I know hantar SMS, but XYZ. Okay. So it was either like, we either go into the food culture, so where like, we have a cooking class, right? And then we introduce a variety of foods from like around Malaysia, because we've got so many Streamers members all around the place. Everyone also wants to donate recipe and share knowledge. Or the other one, which is a request we actually get quite often from within Streamers itself, and I believe if Streamers our members interested, WAA quite likely also have the audience for it. Is that everyone wants to know, hey, I want to start my own kitchen garden, but I'm a bit scared. I don't know how to do it, right? What do I need to do? How should I do it? And where can I get the seeds from? So that is one of the options that we're thinking of doing. So it's either cooking skills or farming skills lah. Please vote.
Okay. So yes, audience, please indicate to us which one you would like, and then maybe we can work on it together with Srimas and WA to come with skills workshops that is according to your needs. So, all right, thank you very much, Ellie, for this interview. It has been actually very informative, and also it's quite sad to hear that the situation, the challenges that the women in Sabah are still facing, although they are prolific farmers, and this Elizabeth shared that they are usually leaders in their village communities, and we hear so much about harvest festivals which these women and men take part, and they have very good management skills, and so we would hope for the best for these women in conducting their work in agriculture in Sabah and supporting the agriculture in Sabah. And we hope that Elizabeth will come again, to share her knowledge, to share her skills with WEA. And so I thank everyone who are with us tonight. And once again, I'm very sorry. We had some disturbance earlier, but I'm sure you all agree that it has been a very sorry.
I see that there's a question actually, Anizan. Should we take it, or got time to take the question?
Sorry. Let's see. I think we can take one. How can we spread the word about the farming situation in Sabah? Ray Redmani. Do you have a suggestion, Elizabeth?
I mean, like more talks like this actually always helps. Media coverage always also helps. But I think one thing that really would help is that it's just that not just in Sabah but I think also like around Malaysia. I mean, since MCO, I think people have started. As I've noticed that local tourism has really picked up, where people are more interested in, I really want to travel and I want to travel around Malaysia, right? Interest in that has really picked up. And so I would encourage people if you are traveling around Malaysia, like never mind if you are just going to Pahang or even like within Selangor, right? There are local markets everywhere. There are farming communities everywhere. If you don't know, just ask us. Stream us. Memang tahu our network very big, right? And then you can just say that like, oh, I want to be able to, I'm going here. Are there any farming communities here? Like, I want to visit, or I want to be able to pick up some of their products. Can you give me that introduction? And that really means so much, lah, to any farmers, lah. Because something that I've always heard from farmers, right? Not just in Sabah and Sarawak, but over here also. Something that brings them a lot of joy is when they see people like, seek them out for information, or who want to eat their products and go say that, oh, your vegetables are so fresh, or I really like your honey. And for them, they're like, oh, that brings us so much satisfaction. Is it because it means that I'm doing something good for the community? I'm giving them good food. And it really raises their self-confidence and self-esteem.
So get more media coverage on such issues, and do more local travel and connect with your local farmers and get to know more what they are experiencing. Is that a good summary of
basically,
yeah.
I mean,
I had
make the effort to reach out, lah.
make the effort to reach out. Yeah. Right. Can we take another question, perhaps, if there's anyone?
If FB ada ke tak soalan? Because I'm not monitoring FB.
No more. I think if there's no more question, you can contact on our Facebook, the Women for Equality Association, or contact Srimas at contact@sri-mas.com, and then we will get back to you. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. So see you again. We have our next series will be on the 21st of April. It will be women in relationships, and it will be at the same time for this Purple Room live talk show, right? For the Empowering Women series. Thank you.